This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
We're all set, cocked, locked. Here we go. Your dial is set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. Bert's with us in California. Welcome, Bert.
Hey, Vince. Over the weekend, this past weekend, I got a. Well, you're already laughing. I
know what you're thinking.
Well, no, another USA Prepares instructor. Couple of days ago sent me a email, and what did I think about? Well, he sent me 8 or 9 photos, Vince, of windmills that have been absolutely destroyed, motors that have blown up, blades chopped off, laying who knows where. Vince, it's a disaster, and he wanted to know what I thought of it, and could I opine on what's going wrong with electrical generating wind turbines, Vince. The other name for them, we don't really call them windmills, because I guess the original windmill was grinding grain, right? And but Vince, it's just been a disaster, and without actually having any of this in my hands and just looking at the photos, it looks like it's a combination of the generators. You call them motors, because the motor and generator for a class is basically the same thing. It's just what direction the power goes. It looks like the motor generators have just plain blown up, and in some cases burnt the blades off the windmill. In other cases, it looks like the blades of the windmill, just through stress or wind or whatever, and they're supposed to take wind, right, broke off. And Vince, they're a disaster, and my just analysis from the photos are they must have really low reliability. And how's the new one you put up on the farm, the Finelli Ranch, doing?
Bert, I have one. I really do have a wind turbine, and there's a guy at the expo. And I made a trade with him. He wanted an expo booth, and he said, "I'll tell you what, I'll give you this wind turbine. It's a 12-volt wind turbine, 7 blades, and I'll trade you that for a booth." And I said, "Sure, that sounds great." So I have one, and you know what? The bottom line is, I looked at it. I still have it. It has never been installed, and the reason it's never been installed is it's way, way too complicated. So, for example, a solar panel just sits there. And when the sun comes out, it generates photovoltaic electricity. It works great. I don't have to worry about moving parts and gears, and I don't have to worry about stopping the blades from overspinning when there's real fierce winds. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. And so I never put it up. And besides, the tower would have to be about 40 feet. And then how do you change the gear lube? How do you maintain it? How do you work on the alternator part of it when it's up so high? So I'd have to fabricate some kind of a system. And I'm thinking I could probably generate maybe 1,000 watts, when the wind's blowing. I'm looking out the window right now. The wind's not blowing, but I have some sun. So I decided to go with just the pure solar system. Now, both would be great. Actually, if I had a stream that ran enough, and I had hydro, and that ran 24 hours a day, that'd be the cat's meow. But we don't have enough water. As a matter of fact, we're in a drought, and the stream's not running worth a darn. So if the stream's not running, the wind's not blowing, and the sun's not shining, you got to have another kind of electricity power generation system, besides the green type. So the bottom line is, I think for most people, passive solar is going to be the way to go. What do you think, Bert? I mean, you've got one of those electric vehicles out there that's got a thirst for electrons.
Well, Vince, I'm just thinking of your farm. I have an idea. I'm just thinking surpluses and deficits. You have many dogs that you've kindly taken in on the farm. And what if you tied, when the wind's not blowing, just an idea, tell me what you think, tie a rope from the tip of each of the three, I assume it's 3-blade, that's what typically they are, tie a rope, let it fall down, and then train the dogs so in line they could each pull on one rope, advance the blade forward, release it, go to the back of the line, next dog grabs the next rope, and you could pull the blades down and around through, five or six dogs in a line could be trained to do that, and you get the windmill running.
I think it's a wonderful. I think it's a wonderful idea, and I think with intensive training, I could get them each to do it twice.
So I guess it's a Rube Goldberg then.
Yeah, that's what I think. But seriously, Bert, electricity. Are you concerned about the grid? Are you concerned about the fact that we don't have enough copper in place right now to power what we want in a severe cold snap? Because of heating and heat pumps working like crazy, electric radiant type heating with resistive heating elements working as a backup, and then of course charging cars, and of course the worst of them all would be AI. What are your thoughts about all that? You think it's doable?
Yeah. Well, Vince, it is an issue, and in aggregate, AI is now the biggest, let's say, customer for electricity. Everyone thought it was going to be electric cars, but electric cars have leveled out. I mean, there's a little bit of a surge right now in EV sales, only because EV subsidy is going to run out in like a month. But turns out it's the AI and the huge data centers that are the ongoing need for electricity, Vince. And now interestingly enough, it's not really an issue for us in California. I mean, we do have a power grid problem in California, but Vince, nobody is building an AI center of any consequence in California. In fact, nobody's building anything that uses a lot of electricity in California. You can probably guess why. We have one of the highest electric rates in the country. So why would anybody locate it here? They're locating it in, the Midwest or countries with relatively low electricity costs. And we talked in a previous class about that big, huge AI center, that processing center that's going up. I believe it was in Kentucky. And the actual plant size, when they complete it, will be almost as much area as the entire island of Manhattan. Huge, Vince. But none of that's going on in California because our electric rate is so darn high. So it's not an immediate problem for us, but, and our rates have kind of capped out, kind of stalled out at like outrageous values of price per kilowatt hour. But Vince, it's an issue for the rest of the country because we don't have the infrastructure. They're not, in other words, they're building these plants. Let's put it in simple terms. They're building the plants faster than they're building any generating capability to supply it. So a lot of these plants are putting in their plans to build on, probably about half of them are putting on-site electrical generation as part of their plans to build the center, so that they'll be, net non-user, at least those plants that are doing this. And in some cases, Vince, for better or for worse, I know you're not too keen on nuclear energy, but in some cases, they're planning to build micro-nuclear generation plants on, right in the same location as the AI centers.
Well, you're right. I'm not too keen on nuclear energy. I'm not even one keen on nuclear power generation. Bert, there are these AI centers that I've been reading about, and this is nothing new. This has been around for months and months, that they brought in these portable gas generators. And I'm assuming that it'd have to be either propane or natural gas. And they're running these generators, and the noise that comes from these generators, there's so many of these generators. It's not like one or two. It's like 40 of them. They're so loud that the people in the area can't stand it. And I guess I have a lot of questions. One is, where do these titans, these captains of industry, get off coming to a small town, starting up one of these systems, bribing the local government, putting in the system, starting up these generators, making noise and driving out the little people? Sounds like the railroads all over and over and over again, where if they didn't get their way, they'd set the railroad it'd just be a magical fire that would burn out the rancher, and then the rancher would be destitute, couldn't grow anything, couldn't raise any cattle, and lose everything. And then the railroad would buy up the land for pennies on a dollar, right? We're talking about the 1800s.
Yeah, Vinny, you said you were a little kid when the railroads were going in, and that happened in the town you were growing up in.
Yeah.
Basically, the railroad
pushed everybody out of the way.
That was just the way it was back then. The railroads were the most powerful companies in the country back then, Vince. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess you'd say the railroads and the steel mills, right?
Right. Yep. And then there was Westinghouse, which was pretty powerful. But Westinghouse had a pretty darn good reputation. They didn't have a reputation that I know of that beat up the little people. George Westinghouse, from my studies, George Westinghouse was a good guy. Thomas Edison, maybe not so much. He would use other people's ideas to his benefit.
Yeah. Didn't Edison screw over Tesla?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
We now kind of know the true story of how that all went down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but George Westinghouse, who was the main competitor of Thomas Alva Edison, was, for everything I've read, a good guy. And George Westinghouse wanted alternating current, and Thomas Alva Edison wanted direct current. Now, that doesn't mean everything that Edison did was bad. The incandescent light bulb hung around for, it's still around, so well over 100 years, right?
Yeah, that was a huge boondoggle trying to push direct current. I mean, there's no easy. It's so easy to transform the voltage on AC. You just go through a transformer.
Yeah. And
in order to transport it over distance, you'd have to use higher and higher voltages. And for class, that's just Ohm's law. So if you have a certain amount of resistance in the wire, if you go higher in voltage, then that resistance is going to eat up less of the power. So it made sense to use AC. But, they tried to bamboozle everybody. I think they even showed electrocuting some people, that it was it happened more easily on AC. So that's why they said we should use DC. It's kind of crazy. Now, the funny thing is, we evolve into the year 2025. Many people do have DC in their wiring in their home, and that might be power over Ethernet or other. I know, Vince, you put some low voltage DC lines in your house, and I think just for normal, everyday kind of low power electronics, might make sense to have either 5 volts or 12 volts or whatever available. But that's because we have things that can operate on those low voltages now. But back 100 or 125 years ago, we didn't have those things, and AC made more sense. But believe it or not, Vince, there were powers that were pushing to use DC as the standard for the country back then. Kind of crazy to think of.
Right, there was something called the War of the Currents, CURRENTS class. And during the War of the Currents, there was alternating current and direct current. Thomas Edison was pro direct current, and George Westinghouse was pro alternating current. So one of the things that Thomas Edison was allegedly doing to demonstrate how dangerous alternating current was, he used alternating current to electrocute stray dogs. So they'd find some stray dogs and show people that you hook one of these dogs up to alternating current and it'll kill them. So, I mean, it was pretty graphic and pretty gruesome, but that's what, just do a search. Did Edison kill dogs? Let's look it up. Oh, by the way, don't believe a word we say. Don't believe a word you hear, see, or read in any media, including right here at USA Prepares. So, Bert, the bottom line is and was that it's really hard to move a lot of current through wire with the direct current system. With alternating current, it's much, much easier. And here's the proof, class. All you have to do is go out to your car in where it's parked and raise the hood if it's got an internal combustion engine. Just raise the hood and look at the size of the battery cable. Either one, the positive or the negative, and look at how big it is as compared to the cable, the power cord on your toaster, or the power cord on your lamp, your table lamp. Just look at the difference in the size, and that is the difference between direct current under the hood of your car and the size of the wire that's necessary to carry the current to start the car, as compared to the amount of electricity that can flow through the wire to run a toaster or a bread machine. Bert, back to you.
Yeah, so Vince, tying this all together, electric current generation needs, windmills. There's a Danish company that has been building these crazy U.S. offshore wind generating farms. Well, Vince, needless to say, the company's in trouble now because a lot of people are saying, let's hold up this development. And Vince, these offshore windmill farms are crazy in the damage they do to the environment, to the whales, the sea life, not to mention they look horrible. But this company, Vince, it's called Ørsted. They're doing an emergency $9 billion rights issue. That's what they call it. They're emergency raising $9 billion to avoid bankruptcy because of the problems they're having and the holdups on building these wind farms. Vince, I don't recommend anybody invest in this, but we don't even know if they're going to be allowed to continue. A lot of this is off New Jersey, where you used to live, Long Island, where I used to live. Vince, the whole market's in limbo. The company's in trouble. Danish government owns 50% of this company, which is Danish. And Vince, there's a good chance they're going out of business, but they just did a $9 billion emergency funding. I would stay away from that as fast as you could, Vince.
Bert, do you have any problem with them going out of business? I certainly do not.
No, I think that's a free market, Vince. You made a bad decision. You thought you had all the politicians in your pocket and all these deals going through, and everybody was probably high-fiving everybody else and thinking their lives are going to be great. We're going to get all these taxpayers in the United States to fund this development. And Vince, it's hit some roadblocks. I think, logical roadblocks, Vince, if you just look at, the pluses and minuses of building these windmills. The energy is not cost effective. Let's just start out at that, even if you take the environment problems out of the picture. But Vince, I think that my guess is they're going to go out of business, or, they might get acquired. But I don't think they're going to survive because they're in big trouble on these windmills, wind farms that they're planning.
We used to talk about this company that claimed that they had a wireless charging system. And you could go into a room, you could bring your cell phone into the room, and it could wirelessly charge. And you wouldn't have to go through all the effort of finding a charger and a cord and plugging it in. It would charge it through the air. Have you heard of any developments with that kind of technology, or did it just die the death that it should die, in my opinion?
Well, that company's out of business. But Vince, for anyone with common sense that understood electromagnetic radiation and radio frequencies would understand that the amount of energy the phone would capture was so minute that it couldn't possibly charge the phone. And if it was raised, if the radio level was raised to be able to charge the phone, it would have to be so enormous an energy field that you would be, I mean, I'm not even saying this as a joke, you would literally be fried. It would have to be that much energy to charge the phone. The fact is that we've talked about this often, Vincent, class. In radio frequency, we have near field and far field coupling. And this would obviously be far field coupling. You're many wavelengths away between the transmitter and receiver. The efficiency, how much energy you actually receive is tiny. It's like 1/1000th or 1/10,000th or 100,000th of what's transmitted.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Bert's with his class, and he's in California. He's a radio frequency engineer, patent holder, and consultant. And we were talking about this wireless charging of phones. It just pops up every once in a while. To me, I could be totally confused. I probably am. But it sounds like a problem that does not need to be solved. What is so hard about plugging your phone into a charging cable? I don't get it. I mean, how long does that take? How long does it take? I guess they're saying that if you had another method where you could charge your phone, kind of like putting your cup of coffee or your mug of coffee on a coaster, and that kind of a connection. Like there's a cordless toothbrush that uses that kind of a charging system, right? Right, Bert?
Yeah, and that's near field, so it's fairly efficient. And they do have that. Most new phones now are capable of being, I guess we can call it wirelessly charged, but you're basically putting the phone down on a mat, and some coffee shops have those mats, and you can do it. And Vince, they're going to be putting that into the electric car industry, into EVs, so that you can have this mat spread out on the floor of your garage. You pull the car in at night, and you don't have to, I guess it saves you having to plug that car charger into, the cord into the car. You just drive on the mat, and you can charge the car that way. That's coming. And Vince, the real thing that's kind of exciting, we'll see if this happens in your or my lifetime, but they're planning to build highways where as you drive along the highway in, let's say, the fast lane, or, let's call it the EV lane, your car will be able to pick up the charging current as it drives along the roadway. And so you might enter the freeway at half charged, and you might exit the freeway 100% charged. So that's coming as well, Vince.
What a great idea. So all we have to do is figure out how to prevent that stray electromagnetic radiation from killing the people in the next lane over, right?
Well, again, it's near field. It's probably more dangerous to the person in the lane that's getting charged than the next lane over.
We don't care about those people because they don't know what they're doing. Okay, I mean, but the rest of us who don't want to be roasted, those are the ones I'm concerned about. So, Bert, back to this mat. So we have this mat
in your garage, and you drive over it, Vince, don't let your dog get in there, though.
In the garage?
Well, not while it's charging.
Why?
My dog used to like to sleep all around my car. Don't let him. Well, if it's not charging, I think it's fine because the mat couples. It's basically an induction coupling. So the mat couples to the car and vice versa. So it won't couple to the dog per se. But if the coupling's going on and the dog wanders in the middle of it, well, Vince, that's probably the end of Snoopy.
So as soon as they roll this out, I should be going into the dog breeding business, right? Get your replacement dogs right here. Is that what you're saying?
That's a positive way to look at it, Vince.
And cats. This is crazy, Bert. This is a problem that does not need to be solved. How hard is it? How hard is it to take that charging cord and plug it in? Kind of like putting gas. Well, it's not like putting gas in a car because you have to do it so often with an electric car, right? But I guess
Vince, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. I only charge my car once a week, which is fine. And it's not, Vince, 15 seconds is not that hard.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. So again, we're solving a problem that does not need to be even addressed, correct?
Well, I think in some cases, if you're visiting somebody or you're, again, the thing I mentioned about future highways, that might have some merit in it. But Vince, I think you're right. Sometimes the simplest way to do something is the best. And, whether it's plugging your phone into your USB cord or plugging your EV charger into the car, it's just makes sense. But in some cases, you might want to have, that pad if you're, visiting somebody or maybe eventually they'll have shopping center parking lots where instead of plugging the cord in, you can just drive up into EV parking spaces and it'll, again, inductively couple the charging current into your battery. So I can see that probably happening at some point in the future. But we'll see, Vince. But Vince, I'm pretty sure that when we start going back to the moon, there's going to be a lot of electrical generation and electrical appliances that the astronauts and settlers on the moon are going to be using.
Yeah, and I guess that'd be a real boon, so they won't have to bring extension cords with them, right?
Yeah, that'd be a tough extension cord. Although there have been people thinking about could we put something up in orbit, solar cells, and instead of microwaving the power back down to the Earth like some people wanted to do, which would be crazy because anything in that path would be instantly burnt up. They're thinking, could we put a cord? And if you think about it, if you have a stationary satellite, why couldn't you run a cord back down to the Earth to supply charging current from solar cells? I think theoretically it's possible. It's just
no, it's not possible because of gravity. Who's going to hold that extension cord up?
Well,
have a rocket that continuously has thrust to keep that extension cord taut?
Well, presumably just a little. And remember, even though the satellite appears stationary, it's actually orbiting.
Mm-hmm. So maybe if we could send some atmosphere up there, we could put a parachute on the solar panels, and the parachute could use the wind that we just put up there to keep the extension cord up, right?
Yeah, or I got another idea, Vince. How about we just learn to use less energy?
I think that's too hard. Of course, I've been saying that for a very long time. We need to use less energy. And I absolutely mean it. But I don't think it's possible, Bert. Our government killed the incandescent light bulb, right? Hillary Clinton was on a major tear to kill the incandescent light bulb. At least that's what I read. And so we've pretty much done away with that energy wasting electric incandescent light bulb, and we've replaced it with one that's 90% more efficient, and we're still running out of electricity. And that's because we're adding devices on that are using more and more and more and more and more electricity. Bert, I saw a copy of my grandparents' electric bill from the 1950s. It was $7, seven, S-E-V-E-N, dollars. Okay. Now, why is that? Well, they had lighting, they had kitchen lighting, they had dining room lighting, they had a light in the living room, they had a radio. They had everything they needed, and it worked fine. And the electric bill was really, really low. But now we have so many devices. If you go into anybody's kitchen today, at night when it's dark out and you walk into the kitchen, don't turn any lights on, you'll probably see 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 little LEDs glowing away, telling you that those devices are plugged in. What am I talking about? Microwave oven, that's one. Stove, that's 2, right? Maybe there's a cell phone charging in the kitchen, that's 3, right? Maybe you have a cordless phone, like a landline cordless phone, that could be 4. That's right, that's just 4. And what if you have a television that's kind of glowing, telling you that it's ready for you to push the remote? That's 5, right?
Yeah, and security cameras.
6, 7, right? So we're using a lot of electricity all the time, and we take it for granted. And I don't think we should take it for granted. I think we should really appreciate what it really is and what it does. And I could be wrong, but again, I don't think so. I don't think there is any energy type that is more inexpensive for what it does than electricity. Is there one, Bert? Let me delineate what I'm saying. So if I wanted to run refrigeration here at the farm, I could do it with an internal combustion engine, but it would use more fuel than the electricity would cost, right?
Yeah. Vince, do the Quakers use electricity?
I'm pretty sure they do, because we had an instructor who was one, and he used electricity all the time.
Okay, wasn't sure, because I know they don't drive.
You're talking about the Quakers, or you're talking about the Amish?
Well, either one, Vince.
Well, I can tell you that I know a bunch of Amish families right here in Missouri, and every single one of them has a cell phone. Now, is that using electricity? Or and I asked them about it, and it seems like using a cell phone is okay. And even using an electric plug-in power saw, like a skill saw, that's okay.
Yeah.
As long as it's not theirs. They can use somebody else's. Okay.
Interesting.
Okay, yeah. Or if they have a DC, like a DeWalt or a Milwaukee 18 or 20 volt
Sure.
cordless drill or impact driver or cordless sawzall or reciprocating saw or circular saw, as long as it's DC, that's okay. Rechargeable, that is absolutely okay.
So, Vince, you're saying there's a voltage limit for Amish?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not Amish, so I really don't know. But I think there is a current limit for the Amish, meaning, is it connected to the grid? So, for example, let me give you an example. We were working on re-roofing 2 of our barns, repairing them. And it required it's a steel roof. So it required re-sistering and sistering roof 2x4s, roof purlins. So if you have a roof purlin that is not as strong as it was when it was first put up, like the barns that we were working on are from 1965. So they're pretty old. So I wanted to replace a bunch of 2x4 12s, 2x4 16s, and they needed to be nailed. So the nail type of choice would be a pneumatic nail gun. So a pneumatic nail gun uses about 100 psi of air pressure, and it's this gun that has a magazine with 30, 40, 50 nails in it. You just squeeze the trigger, bang, and it drives a 3.5-inch nail. So it's a great way to go. But how do you get the compressed air? Well, you run an air compressor. Okay, how do you do that? Well, with alternating current, like 120 volts. Okay, how do you do that? We're in the middle of nowhere. Well, you get a generator. So I was working with an Amish guy. Together we were working on this. And so we used a generator, which is ours. And we used his air compressor, which is 120 volts. And his nail gun and my nail gun. And that's what we did. So I don't know the answer about the Amish and all of the delineations, but I can tell you this. He has an Amish buggy, and it's pulled by a horse. So he has a pneumatic nail gun, a 20-volt DC circular saw, 20-volt DC reciprocating saw, 20-volt impact driver and screw gun. So he's got all those, and a cell phone. He's got all that stuff. So he's actually got more in terms of the latest technology than I do, because I don't have 20-volt anything.
Does he have television at home?
I don't think so. And I
but
never.
He can watch,
yeah.
He can watch on a cell phone.
Right. Right. So it's all. It seems to come down to the elders, and I am not in class. Do not look at me as an expert on any of this because I don't know, but it comes down to what the elders say they can do, and there seems to be different groups that have different elders, and the elders don't necessarily agree on all the finer points. So he has. Let me just stun you right now. He has an Amish buggy, so it's a black. It looks like something out of the 1860s. It's horse-drawn. It's drawn by one horse, and he can put the whole family in it. His children, his wife, and he can ride in this buggy. It's black, and it has a blinking light on the back. It's a red blinking light, and it's powered by a DeWalt 20-volt rechargeable lithium-ion battery pack. He can take that out and use it for his cordless drill or his cordless saw. So he charges it with a DeWalt charger. And I guess he's using household current to do that somehow. Now, here's the stunning part. How much do you think one of those black Amish buggies would cost? Have you ever seen one, Bert, up close?
Oh, well, not. Yeah, actually, I have. Driving around.
Yeah. So
Amish territory. I've seen them. I've passed them on the road and stuff. And
it's got wooden spoke wheels, right? It's, okay. Solid rubber tires. Thin like a bicycle. What do you think one of those would cost? A new one.
Oh, man, I'm probably out of my expertise, Vince. But
I know.
10,000.
I'm out of mine too.
10,000.
Well, you're not out of your expertise. You're within $500.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
10.5.
Wow. Okay.
And I was talking to this Amish, this young Amish guy. I said, "Heck, for less than that, you could have a used pickup truck with an engine, and you could leave the horse home.
Yeah.
And put everybody in the pickup truck. So, but it's a tradition thing.
So, Vince, do the Amish? Serious question: do they have power grid going to the house, or there is no power?
Here's what I think. So I think, let's say they buy somebody else's house, and there's power already there.
Yeah,
I think they can use it. But could they build a house from scratch and put it in? I think the answer is no.
Well, that seems like a delineation based on grandfather
clause.
Yeah. Wow.
But again, I am not an expert in any of this. But here's something this is quite, since we're off on this tangent. So I said to this young man, so if everything goes really bad and the grid goes down, people are having a really tough time, at least you'll be able to get on your horse and go to town, right? And he looked at me and he kind of smiled and he said, like, why would I go to town? There's going to be nothing there. Why would I go to town? Very well said, right?
Yeah, they'll be fighting for food and provisions and everything.
Yeah, Bert, we have become addicted to electricity. Absolutely.
Oh, I don't think anybody realizes if we have a power grid failure that's more than, just an isolated community, multiple states, like Vince, we did back in the 60s. I remember when I lived in New York State, we had a fairly large power failure that lasted for a while. If we have anything that lasts for more than a day or two, and it's more than a local community, it's a state or multiple states, Vince, that's a disaster that we're no way prepared for. And that's something we've, spoken about here in class at USA Prepares, that one thing that could cause that would be a solar storm of the strength that we had several times in the past before we had a power grid built out. We think a storm of that intensity, for instance, 1859, if it happened today, depending on where that radiation landed, could very much wipe out the power grid for days or weeks at a time. And Vince, that would be a disaster because, let's just cut to the chase. Even your gas station needs power to power the gas pumps to pump the gasoline out. So, Vince, I don't think we're prepared. And then we've spoken often that some of the transformers that are necessary to replace in case they get burnt out in in some type of a solar storm, we don't have enough backup supply of those transformers. So even if we want to try and go repairs and rebuild the power grid, it's going to take some time. In some cases, a long time if we run out of those transformers. So it's something that I think we're in no way prepared for.
Okay. Well, here's a headline right now. Quote, major solar storms hitting Earth today set to cause widespread disruptions in 11 U.S. states, end quote. That's today's headline. So underneath that, it says, Earth is under a barrage of solar storms that could disrupt power and communications throughout Monday. A major G3 geomagnetic storm struck the planet late Sunday night, and forecasters with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, have warned that the G2 storm is expected to follow today. Now, so that was Monday's headline. Okay, that's what it said. So it says, imagine a strong gust of wind hitting a flagpole. These storms are measured on a scale of G1, minor, light breeze, to G5, extreme, like a hurricane. So they say that the problem started. Okay, wait a second. All right.
Yeah,
Elon Musk's Starlink satellite internet service suffered widespread issues during the peak of the storm late Sunday night. The problem started just before midnight with more than 50,000 reports from Starlink users by 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time. By the middle of the night, the outage tracking website Down Detector to receive reports of Starlink blackouts and degraded service in Missouri, California, Washington, New York, and North Carolina. So it goes on to say that it can still cause major power grid fluctuations, satellite disruptions, and high-frequency radio blackouts. That's like Monday, right?
Yeah. Vince, I'm looking at the NOAA website as we speak, and it looks like its peak was yesterday, Monday, in the very early hours GMT time. So that would put it, probably somewhere around midnight our time. and it's been declining, but it looks like a peak happened all day Monday, yesterday, Vince.
Bert, these things seem to be happening more and more and more often.
Well, we're on a downturn of the solar cycle, but we're still relatively high. For class, we have an 11-year solar cycle where we don't know exactly why, but we've tracked it for 200 years or so, that every 11 years, the sun varies in the intensity of the magnetic and radiation storms that occur, usually correlated with both storms and sunspots. And we reached a peak just, Vince, probably earlier this year, and we're declining now, but we're still relatively high, so I'm not surprised that we hit a storm this week.
Bert, do you have any concerns about these electromagnetic storms and electric cars and their operation? We're going into a break in about 10 seconds, but when we come back, can you address if you think that there's a possibility of concern with electric vehicles and advanced technology with these kinds of storms? Bert and I will be right back. Bert Bertonis is with us in California, and we're talking about advanced technology. We're talking about electromagnetic pulses, coronal mass ejections, solar storms, sunspots, those kinds of things. And my question is, if a person has the latest that GM or Ford or whatever the new Stellantis is called, Chrysler type product, Jeep product, do they need to be concerned about these superstorms, these solar superstorms, in terms of the electromagnetic energy coming from the sun, blowing up their electronics, leaving them maybe stranded at the pump or stuck in a lane if they have an EV or a hybrid car? Bert, any concerns about any of that? Your thoughts, please.
Sure, Vince. Well, honestly, I don't think they've tested the EV's susceptibility to what would happen in a severe solar storm. But I think what we do know from previous, let's say, less intense solar storms that have happened, that they do affect the power grid. So the immediate problem with an EV, I'm not so sure the EV itself would blow out because, basically they have a metal body, they're shielded. So we just don't know the answer to that question. But what we do know is the power grid could be affected. And let's face it, every EV eventually needs to get recharged from the power grid. So if the power grid goes down, that will affect EVs. And then it'll also affect gasoline cars, Vince, because the gas stations all depend on electricity to run the gas pumps. And some of them do have backup power that might last for a day or two. But after that, if they don't have the grid backup, the gas stations go down. So, Vince, both type of vehicles get affected basically because of the power grid.
Do you have a concern about the cell phone systems and those kinds of things, or are they robust? I'm talking about the towers and their electronics, as well as the cell phone handheld devices themselves.
Yeah, well, Vince, some towers will go down. The question is how many. The system can reconfigure it itself if just a few towers go down. If a lot go down, who knows? That's why we've often suggested that people buy CB radios, or there's other type of free public band radios that you can buy, walkie-talkies. They're pretty inexpensive. And Vince, there's a chance that walkie-talkie might be your connection to the outside world, especially if you live in a more rural area. And of course, ham radios as well, Vince. It's for those inclined, it's kind of a neat thing to get a ham license and be able to operate over a wide frequency range, from HF to VHF to UHF if you get a basic ham license. Actually, the most basic is called a technician's license. So that's something you can look into, and it just allows you to, have some radio equipment. But even without a ham license, Vince, there's a lot of CB and other public radio systems that you can buy and have communications with. And it could be that that's all that might work if it's a severe enough storm that does topple the cellular system in your neck of the woods. You might have to depend on that. Vince, the real answer is we don't know, but what we do know is statistically we will have continued solar storms. The one in 1859 was probably not the only one we're ever going to have. We're going to have one that's strong again. We've had a couple close to that since then that did cause more damage to, there were no telephone systems in 1859, but there were in the 1920s when we had another storm, and that blew out a bunch of telephone systems and central offices. So it's going to happen, Vince, and walkie-talkies or ham radio or other types of two-way communications might be the fallback if the cellular system goes down.
Bert, here's something I'm concerned about. I don't know if anybody's even talking about it, but let's do it. So I have a photocopier that I bought many years ago. It's made by Canon. It's an outstanding little photocopier, and that's all it does. It just makes photocopies. And it has an LCD, liquid crystal display. That darn thing is blank. So I can't tell what it's doing. So, I can power it up, and it knows what mode it's in, but it can't tell me because the display is blank, worn out. I have walkie-talkies that have the same type of display, but they're newer, so they're working fine. So what I'm saying is I've got a great photocopier. It makes magnificent photocopies. All the mechanics work fine, but I can't read the display. Walkie-talkies I have, the displays still work. I have a fax machine. It's made by a company called Brother. It has the same liquid crystal display. And that thing is so dim I can't read it. So I can't tell whether it's saying complete, call failed. I have no idea what it's doing. But it transmits just fine, but it can't tell me it did. Then
how do you know?
Well, because I think when it goes beep at the end, that means congratulations, you have completed a successful transmission. I think that's what that means. Then I have a couple thermostats in the house. Now they're 20 years old, and they're liquid crystal display, and I can hardly read them. And they work perfectly, except that the display is getting dimmer, 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 dimmer. And then the coup de grace is we have an old Mercedes station wagon, and it's a 2005. And the year before, it had a regular needle pointing type display. Well, Mercedes, in their infinite wisdom, decided to upgrade this thing to make the new customers happier. It's a liquid crystal display, gas display. It doesn't work worth a darn. It's almost impossible to read it. So here we have, and it's not all that bad. It's only the gas gauge to tell you how much fuel you have. But to fix it, you have to put in a new console, new display console. Not just that element, but the whole thing. The gas gauge, the temperature, all that stuff, the speedometer, all that has to be replaced with the one console. And you can't get them because they're out of production. So what do you do with a car that you can't tell how much fuel you have in it? Well, obviously you can, set the trip odometer and say, okay, I'll go 300 miles and then I'll fill up. But it's unsettling. And this is a problem that was solved that never even needed to be thought about. Liquid crystal display, the console they had just the year before and all the years before that worked just fine. Bert, do you have any comments about technology for, I don't know, what, like maybe just the sake of being new? I don't like any of it.
Vince, I think I figured it out. You would be happier living in the 1800s. So you need to go back in time to maybe the late 1870s, and I think you'll feel right at home.
Well, yeah, and if I want to know, how much fuel I had, I could look over at that kerosene lamp and I could say, it looks like it's about half. Because I could look right through the glass base and see that it was half full of kerosene, right? And I know how much kerosene was in the kerosene lamp, right?
Yeah, you go into market on your horse, and they did have telegraphs. So if there was an emergency, you'd get a telegraph message. Well, of course, they'd have to bring it out to your farm via courier, but you'd get that message. And Vince, I think that's the solution. You need to take your farm and family back in time 150 years.
Well, we're actually almost there at our farm, because we are almost as self-sufficient as you can be, but we don't have enough for everybody. I mean, if a whole bunch of people showed up, it's not much. I mean, I don't have 40 toothbrushes. I don't have 40 pillowcases, and I don't have 40 can openers and that kind of thing. But I guess I just don't appreciate all of this technology, all this fluff that is extraneous. I don't appreciate it, and people are getting caught up in it. I mean, it's like a contest. Who's got the latest fluff? And none of it's necessary. None of it. Really, nobody needs to have the latest cell phone. The one they have works just fine, right? What's wrong with last year's cell phone? What's wrong with last year's styles of clothing? What's wrong with last year's television? If you look at a television, you go into Sam's Club today, they've got a television. I don't know how you get it home. I mean, I don't think it would fit in our station wagon. I think you'd have to put it in the bed of the pickup truck. It's 85 inches.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm serious. 85 inches. It's huge.
Do you have a spot for that in the living room?
Oh yeah, we could make it happen, but why would I want to do that? I mean, that would displace like 2 bookcases.
Well, you don't need books because everything's going to be on the cloud.
Well, that's another thing. Are you concerned about that? Everything being on the cloud? Have you ever had the internet go down?
I've stopped worrying about being concerned about it because you have to accept it's going to happen.
Why?
And, well, it's happening, and you and I can't stop it. Everything's going on the cloud, and more importantly, artificial intelligence is going to take over everything. Vince, it might be in 5 or 10 years when people want to come to class for USA Prepares, it's all prepared by botnets and artificial intelligence, and they might recreate our voices, but it'll all be put out over artificial intelligence.
Bert,
I'm not saying our jobs are the first to go, but I can see it happening.
I was reading an article about AI and some of the jobs it's going to replace. And the article went on to say, we thought it was going to be all the low-end jobs, like the guys who put lug nuts on cars on the assembly line. So, replace those guys with robots, and robots can put the lug nuts on the wheels. But it seems like those predictions were wrong, because right now technology is moving so fast that, of course, it can replace them. One of the systems that I built back in 1984, 85, was press 1, press 2, press 3 to answer the phone. And I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And so that's becoming more and more AI. And now it's at the point where that system that I built says, well, just tell me what you want. Tell me how I can help you. And it's AI. And AI is now in between us and a person. And I don't want to talk to AI. I want to talk to a person. And it's getting harder and harder to talk to that person. But I guess one of the points is, why do we have to go to school at all? Okay, in the future. You and I wrote a press release, and it was a joke back in 1980. I'm sure you remember this very, very well. And we said that you and I invented this thing, and you could plug this connector into your, we alleged it would be your arm, and you could watch a movie and you could pick the character that you wanted to be, and you could be that character. So if you wanted to be Rambo, you could be Rambo, but you better go to the doctor first and make sure that you're stressed. The stress level will let you play Rambo in the movie that you're participating in your head. So you just get back in your lazy boy, plug this connector with this cable into your arm, select the movie that you want to be a part of, and then you are the character that you want to be in the movie. So if that were the case, and we claimed that we invented that publicly in 1980, and then other people are, that resurfaced 10 years later and 10 years later after that, and great claims that never materialized. But
yeah,
but that concept, why should you have to go to school? Just plug in. Just plug in and
for many years we came out with that joke every April Fool's, and we always saw it as something so far in the future it'd be crazy. But then for the last few years, it's not so crazy, because Elon Musk has a company, Neuralink, that is literally doing what we joked about. They're embedding microprocessors into the human brain and coupling to the brain neurons. And so Vince, it's not a joke anymore.
Do you have a copy? Do you have a copy of that original press release? Do you have somewhere maybe written you could read it on the air?
I probably do. Let's do it after the next break. I'll look up one of them. But Vince, it's interesting. We talked about AI and jobs. So I think a lot of people are saying, what jobs can AI not replace? And interesting enough, it might be some obvious things you're thinking of, like a plumber or an electrician, but it could also be managers. Vince, it would be leaders. It could be social workers. Vince, probably more important than anything, it's entrepreneurs and scientists and researchers. You can't really replace that with AI. And
wait, researchers? Sure you can. I mean, you can just type in something.
If you're doing advanced research,
oh, okay,
you need to think out of the box.
Okay, you're talking about developmental research.
Yeah,
okay.
And well, then you're relegated down to some basic stuff like customer service and sales, probably not likely to be replaced by artificial intelligence. But honestly, Vince, probably 8 out of 10 majors that current college students are studying in college, probably 8 out of 10 of those can be replaced by AI. And everybody used to say coding, get a job doing coding. Well, coding's on the top of the list to be replaced by AI. But other aspects of electrical engineering, so not your coder writing software, but some of the other aspects, those are probably safe, Vince, the more traditional electrical engineering jobs, and for that matter, other type of engineering, probably safe. But Vince, 80% of what, well, let's face it, Vince, probably half of what current students are studying never had a lot of jobs to begin with. But for those that did, a lot of them are going to face competition with AI. Vince, even here in Silicon Valley, some companies have been quietly doing layoffs because they've been able to eliminate workforce because of AI, and they're bragging about it because, in the short term, it shows up in your profit and loss statement and boosts the profits. But in the long term, Vince, it's changing society in ways that, we'll see how we deal with it.
Bert, that's upside down. Okay, when you and I were looking for a job, okay, we just graduated the university. We were out looking to see what was a good fit for us, where we would fit with them. When a company had a layoff, it was an embarrassment. It meant that management made a massive mistake, so massive that they had to recover by throwing people overboard that made the company. That's what that is. A layoff is that. And it was a black eye. And now, and you said it, and I believe you're right, that people in corporations brag when they fire people. And that's what it is. A layoff is firing people. Firing people that built the business. So it's exactly backwards. And our values are backwards. People are thinking right is wrong, wrong is right. It's unbelievable. So I'm very concerned about AI. And Bert, I was reading another article about AI can do lots of things. And one thing it can do is replace a podcaster. A podcaster is, the video, the audio, the editing, all that to make a podcast, seem to be seamless, right? The research. Now they're saying that a podcast can be produced for $1. $1. So it's going to throw podcasters overboard. And I was watching some YouTube documentaries, and they're narrated by AI. Great voices. Never miss a beat. Never clear their throat. It's perfect. Almost anyway. And that's where we
Vince,
are.
Does that mean the instructors at USA Prepares days are numbered?
No, I don't think so, because a lot of what we do is based on firsthand experience. And AI can just read and accumulate what others have done. We'll be right back. And Bert's with us in California. Bert, I know we're going to talk about the April Fool's joke we've been playing on the world for 45 years. But before we go into that, I just want to let you know, class, that we're talking about LCD displays, liquid crystal displays, photocopiers, walkie-talkies, fax machines, gas gauges on Mercedes, thermostats, thermometers that you put in your mouth, that kind of thing. They have a life expectancy of between 5 and 10 years. 5 and 10 years. Can you imagine buying a thermostat where it's telling you what the temperature is, and after 5 to 10 years, it just can't do it anymore? So you have to buy a new one because the display quits? This is nuts. Because if you had an old Honeywell thermostat, one of those round ones, it would have a pointer and a bimetallic spring, and it would just point to the temperature, and you could read it, and it would work for 50 or 100 years without problems. So, Bert, were you able to find this joke that you and I have been playing on the world since 1980 for 45 years? Have you found one?
Vince, I found a couple, but before we go, you make it sound like things were so great 150 years ago, but how long did your horse live that you used to power your horse and buggy? I mean,
I didn't whip him. I didn't whip him, so he lasted about 22 years.
That long? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And how about the couple of doggies you had pulling your winter sled?
Well, unfortunately, TJ, Thomas Jefferson, an English Mastiff, only lasted about 6 years. The bigger the dog, the shorter the life expectancy. And but typical German Shepherds are doing about 12 years. That's pretty good. We've got some mutts that are probably going to go longer than that. And we've got a cat that's got to be over 15 years old in the kitchen right now. So, we've got some cats, and they last a long time.
Okay. Well, Vince, per your request, I found April Fools, April 1st, 2003. So, Vince, that was 22 years ago and a couple of months. The IEEE Committee for Broadband Communications today announced the 802.91 wireless LAN standard, the latest in the 802. Series. And I'll go on, it's fully operational, direct connect interface. We'll later learn what that meant. Was demonstrated at the recent 802 Planetary Committee meeting in Geneva, Switzerland. Outstanding researchers in the computer, telecommunications, and medical fields teamed together to develop this system and were present to share in the product's unveiling. The 802.91 architecture sports the new MX interfacing and allowing complete control of all fine MAC layer operations through a bio interface. This was driven by engineers who recognized that no present microprocessor could address data faster than the human mind could. According to radio designers, the bus operates at a maximum rate of 254 megabits per second, is fully FCC Part 15 compliant, and provides direct non-line-of-sight solution. The staff developed this product, even which overcomes problems that have plagued all other high-speed wireless LANs. Essentially, the brain acts as a real-time CDMA rake receiver and restores all data bits back to the correct phase relationship. At the same time, noise and interference are removed by an adaptive psychic trellis filter process. The MX system is available in both implanted internal and external top hat antennae configurations. Although the first prototype was performed in a sanitary facility at Walter Reed Army Hospital, the company is confident that a new step-by-step DVD will allow on-site installation in only 4 hours' time by most competent computer value-added resellers. All hardware is included, including 4 Teflon-coated stainless steel self-tapping screws. 20-page instruction manual is written in a format which all surgeons can easily follow, and the pages are plasticized and, most importantly, easily wiped clean with a damp cloth. Toll-free hotline is provided should any complications occur. Production units are scheduled for early July. Pricing will soon be established. For more information, and we give an address and actually a email you could click on, which went to a fictitious address, Vince. So we've done variations of that for, Vince, since
45 years.
The late 1980s.
Yep. So, Bert, that, for those who have listened to that, it sounds like it's absolutely, positively true.
Oh, we would have magazines contacting us for more information. Could they interview the researchers and so on and so forth?
Bert, we even had people who wanted to buy stock in our company based on that.
Yeah.
And we'd all be in the clink if we did it. But it's interesting that we say don't believe anything you hear, see, or read in the media. We've been saying it for a long time. And how do we know? We've actually been playing this very same joke, which has been modified, in the description, in the device that we pretend that we've invented, and the technology that we've made up. But it sounds real. It absolutely sounds real. And that thing about but there are a few pieces that remain constant over the 45 years. And that's Walter Reed Army Hospital, where Bert, you used to say, Sinotreb, your last name spelled backwards, Sinotreb, which is your last name backwards, and Ilinef, which is my last name backwards. But the two researchers that developed that and unveiled it at the Walter Reed Sanitary Facility of the Walter Reed Army Hospital. That's the same thing as the original version, which has been slightly modified each year, but is probably, the main central theme is unchanged. It's something that we allege can be installed into the human body We don't really say it. That's what the screws are for. That's why they're Teflon coated. So they'll screw into your bone, without too much pain. The manual that easily wipes clean with a damp cloth, that's because of the blood spattering, while the surgeon's reading the instructions on screwing this thing into your arm, and blood, the image is the blood spurting all over the operating table. And a toll-free hotline, should the patient get really sick on the operating table, we can help out. But that was the theme, that we created this thing that was impossible to have been created at that time. And so it's been a running joke with us, and we've been having fun with it for years. But literally, Bert, there was a maybe 10 years after the first one, maybe around 1990, wasn't there a Silicon Valley magazine, like this is the latest and greatest of Silicon Valley, and here are the new adventures of the big companies. And then one article was describing, now here's some really great claims that never materialized. And number one was Apple's Newton. Apple came out with a product they called a Newton, and Steve Jobs was touting this thing, and it fell flat on its face. And that was the number one biggest flop. And the number two biggest flop was the TX bus that you and I claimed we invented, right? We were number two in colossal flops. But ours was a joke.
Yeah. And the other thing, Vince, is each time we did this, we did preface the article with the date, April 1st, put in the year, but that blew by most people.
They don't even see that. They don't even see, for immediate release, 1 April and then the year. They don't even see that part, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll get a chance to, improve on it and do it, every year. And maybe, Bert, next April, we should read it on the air.
Well, unless AI reads it for us and does it for us.
I'm very concerned about AI. I'm concerned that, Bert, as I mentioned, I was watching these documentaries, and it's in an absolutely perfect voice. There is no one alive or dead that could have or did read any audio book that was as well done as these AI readings that I've been listening to recently, documentaries. And the only reason I know it's AI is because when the AI voice comes across, like at the end of a sentence, there'll be a period. So think of it like text, and AI's trying to replicate a human voice. And they can even put accents in there. They can even put dialects. They can male, female. They can tweak it any way they want. And when the AI reading comes to the end of a sentence, there'll be a period. So the AI will know, okay, wait X number of milliseconds before continuing on to the next word. But it's apparent that it's AI because when it comes to the word Mrs., which is MRS period, AI will say, Mrs. Jones, there'll be an extra long pause. Or if it's DR for doctor, Dr. Jones said. So you know that it's AI because of that. But
they didn't program the pause for the period wasn't delineated, that it doesn't pause if it's after Doctor or Mrs. or Mr.
Correct. And sometimes it will, like, for example, let's say we're coming across the term 9/11. Okay, we would say on 9/11, and then AI would come along and read it and say on 9/11. Okay, so that's another way that you can tell. I'm trying to think of, okay, so let's say the abbreviation was pounds, LBS, like 20 space LBS. AI might come along and say 20 lbs rather than 20 pounds. So it's not perfect, and that's how we can tell now. But give it another year, and I'm pretty sure all that's going to be fixed.
So, Vince, in 2 years, how will they know that it's Bert and Vince on USA Prepares?
Well, they won't. They won't. Except for the fact that you can hear the human touch in what we do, the delayed answers, the problems that we have with the transmission delay, those kinds of things that enter into the broadcast. But AI, I'm pretty sure AI can generate a resume, that used to take us days, maybe weeks to build a good quality, perfect representation of our experience profile in our resume. I'm pretty sure it can do it in 20 seconds today. I'm very concerned that it's going to replace pretty much everything. Why would we need a keyboard? Why would we need a mouse? Why would we need wired anything? Why not just think about it and make it happen? Why not? We're approaching that, aren't we? But then again, then what's the purpose of having humanity? What's the purpose of us being here? To just watch what AI does? And then...
Yeah. Well, Vince, I think there's one way, just throwing this out there, that class can determine that it's really Vince and Bert, is one of the last things AI will be able to do is probably some of the double entendre humor that we put out when we do classes together. That might be a little bit of a stretch for AI to pick up on that.
You mean because we do it with a straight face, or because we do it at all, or both?
Well, both.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that might be hard for AI to pick up on that double entendre.
Bert, there's so many channels of information. I think we're USA Prepares is going to get lost in the sauce. I think there's going to be so much overwhelming information that I think people are in overload right now, and there's so many choices they don't know what to do. Here's an example. How many different programs does Netflix have running right now? Thousands and thousands, right? But yet people will go to Netflix and they'll say, there's nothing to watch. And how's that possible? There's nothing to watch, but yet there are thousands of choices.
Yeah.
Here's something really, really sad. There was a military base, a U.S. Army base, and my father taught there. It was in Monmouth County, New Jersey, and it was called Fort Monmouth, named after the Battle of Monmouth. And I think it was decommissioned around roughly 15 years ago. Well, it just sold that property to Netflix. Netflix is going to take a U.S. Army communications base, and turn it into a production studio.
Wow.
What I'm talking about is they are going to take a real thing and turn it into fiction, pretend, movies. How about that? Yeah, it's unbelievable. We've got manufacturing factories, huge buildings that used to make steel and cars and all electronics and electrical devices. I'm not talking about trinkets. I'm talking about heavy manufacturing, heavy stamping of steel and real products, and turn that into idle, derelict buildings.
Wow. Vince, have you been back to New Jersey since you grew up there?
No, I have no desire. Bert, it's kind of odd. I'm of Italian heritage. I have no desire to go to Italy. No desire. I mean, I know people who are Irish who want to go to Ireland. People who are Scottish who want to go to Scotland. People who are Chinese who want to go, Chinese descent want to go to China. I have no desire to go. I'm really happy right here on our farm. I don't even want to leave our farm. I don't even like going to Springfield, Missouri, believe it or not. Like a terrible thing that could happen to me is if I got invited to a wedding, out of state. So if you decide that you're going to get married, why don't you get married here on the farm and I'll be there.
Yeah. Well, Vince, I heard Jersey's changed a lot with all the industrialization, the farms you probably grew up with. People had horses in their backyard for real when you grew up. Not so much now. And then we just spoke about those wind farms. Hopefully that's coming to an end. But huge wind farms going up over the coast of Jersey.
It's a whole different world, literally, class. When I grew up, it was horse country, literally horse country. It was magnificent. It's not what you think of today. It's completely different. It's been destroyed, absolutely destroyed. It was a kind of thing where the property taxes on a reasonably nice house might be $88 a year. The taxes today are almost $9,000 on that same exact house with no additional improvements. The same house on the same land. It's absolutely out of control. So I have no desire to go. I have no desire to leave the state. I really don't. No, I'm not kidding. I like it on the farm.
Are there any farms left in New Jersey, Vince?
Well, Bruce Springsteen has one. And actually, when I was growing up, I played on the farm that I had a friend who owned that farm before Springsteen family bought it, and it's a magnificent farm. I was there on that very property, and I don't know if did you know that Mrs. Finelli went to school with Bruce Springsteen?
No, I did not know, Vince.
Yeah. So
same year, or
I think he was 1 year older than she, but they went to the same school.
Not that we want to give away the age of Mrs. Finelli. Sorry.
That's okay. But no, she did go to school with him, and he had a band, and he played and played in dances, and the way that people remember it, he was the greatest. But in actuality, a lot of people would prefer that someone else played at the school dances rather than him. That's the way I've heard it. But no one seems to remember it that way. They remember he was the greatest. Now he's done a fabulous job with some of his lyrics and songs, and Born in the USA. I remember that President Ronald Reagan thought that was really patriotic. It was the exact opposite. He was talking about how awful America is, sending our boys as cannon fodder over to a foreign war, Vietnam.
Uptown Girl.
Yeah. Yep. There's no question. And by the way, if you want to see Bruce Springsteen at his in my opinion, at his absolute finest, he and Roy Orbison and Jackson Browne and a few others did a performance called Night of Black and White, I believe. I'm going to do a quick look up. It's on YouTube. It is spectacular. There's no performance that I think in music that's better than that performance. Truly, truly great. If you'll take the mic for a second while I look it up, I'll see what I can find, okay?
Yeah. And Vince, another video that I saw was from one of the music awards where Bruce Springsteen and his band and Billy Joel and his band played together, and they played each other's songs. And Vince, that was one of the best concerts I've ever seen. It was at one of the rock music awards where they did that, and that was, I thought, pretty outstanding as well, Vince. And Vince, that might be something AI can't replace as well. Being a rock star, Vince, or producing. I know AI has produced music, but it's not really the same as something that Springsteen or Billy Joel might do.
So, Bert, here it is. It's Roy Orbison, Oh Pretty Woman, Black and White Night 30. It's on YouTube, and you can look that up.